Oh man, wait. Did you happen to watch the latest episode of The Acolyte?
No, I'm behind.
Oh my gosh, I can't even talk about. Oh my gosh.
I've only seen the first 3.
Oh geez. Oh, it doesn't even dismantle itself yet. I mean, episode 4 and 5 completely dismantle the entire show, and you're just like, what? I mean, there's some great stuff coming up. They do lightsaber stuff very, very well. I'll tell you
Okay.
that. I really appreciated that. That's probably the best stuff we've seen since Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
Since that, because the sequel saber stuff was really just like baseball batting each other and just
That's
was really
true.
sloppy. Great visuals. This was just great. I thought very creative saber use.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they kind of went into a little bit more of like the savage aspect of saber use.
Mm-hmm.
Up until now, a lot of like lightsaber deaths have been pretty. They're very pretty.
Yeah.
I've at least have always been like, dude, let's get some gruesome saber deaths.
Yeah.
Boo! They served that up on a freaking gold platter. But the show itself, like literally everything else, when you catch up, we really got to talk about it because it's hard not to slam it. Yeah. Welcome to This Endorian Life, a Star Wars podcast from the Radio Meanwhile Network. My name is Steve Rudd.
I'm Nick Gunning, and this week our journey through Star Wars Vintage brings us to the Droids.
Today we are discussing Droids 5, Separated. This issue hit the stands on September 16th, 1986, when we were wee boys.
There is a separation, also.
There is! Well, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it happens. It actually, the title.
Everyone, I know that's been the plight of the droids.
Yeah.
The name finally matches what happens. There
Hallelujah.
we go.
Hallelujah.
Let it be. Droids 5.
We have a whole new creative team for this one. John Romita Sr., who had been doing some of the interior arts, does the cover for this, and this is the last that he does on the series. The issue was written by George Cargone, who was just 21 at the time. This is his only Star Wars credit, and he did some other Marvel work, but had a pretty short and tragic life. So interesting there. It was illustrated by Mary Wilshire, who is our featured cast member today. So Mary Wilshire is the penciler on this issue, and like the writer, George Cargone, this is her only Star Wars work. So they just bring in these two, like, write this issue, and that's it. It's all they ever do. So she has quite a bit of work with Marvel, including the 1986 X-Men miniseries Firestar, which tells the origin of the character originally created for the animated series Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, which I love. And I have read that Firestar miniseries. A few other things of note about this issue. It was collected by Marvel in the hardcover Star Wars Legends Omnibus, Ewoks and Droids. And this is essentially the final issue of the Droids comic, because we have a few more, but they're just retellings of the original trilogy, and they're not even in the Droids animated series style. So this is really it for the Droids comics, which is sad because I've got some thoughts on this this issue as we get into it. So
I do too. So I'm excited to get into this one.
All right, take us through it.
All right. The uber detailed plot of Droids number 5, Separated. Once again, C-3PO and R2-D2 are masterless. Currently on planet Arduba, the duo report to the droid store, where R2 is quickly sold off.
The droid store.
The droid store, yeah. I just think of like Best Buy.
Yeah.
The droid store, where R2 is quickly sold off to Kirk Windjammer. 3PO is distraught, as Windjammer only has enough money for R2. With the two now separated, 3PO is also sold off to Baron Starlock, an advisor to Prince Jagoda of planet Arduba. 3PO is immediately tasked with translating for the prince. While reviewing documents, 3PO overhears Baron Starlock speaking with the ambassador to Durand about eliminating Prince Jagoda. They plan on using Starlock's personal BX-00 droid, who already treats 3PO poorly. Meanwhile, across town, Kirk Windjammer meets with a client, who is a shady client, I should say, who is willing to hire him and his boat despite his poor reputation. Back at the palace, 3PO walks in the gardens with the prince, but before he can tell him of the plot against him, Starlock's BX-00 droid attacks them. 3PO manages to push the prince away from being blasted, but gets flicked away like an ant by the BX droid. Before the droid can do the deed, 3PO smashes a fountain statue on its head, incapacitating the dastardly droid, saving the prince's life. In the throne room, the prince arrests Baron Starlock and banishes the ambassador to Durand. He also fires his advisors and places 3PO into the position. I guess all is well. Meanwhile, Kirk and R2 load their boat and head out on their unusual delivery. They are to deliver crates to a position out in open water. No questions. On their way, Kirk expresses his concern about the wall and gate that separates the planet in two, seemingly used to drain more taxes out of trade. Suddenly, a fleet of naval-looking ships appears on their scopes. This must be who their rendezvous is with. They board the flagship and begin to deliver the crates when R2 accidentally mishandles the anti-grav ray, causing the crates to smash down onto the deck of the Navy ship, spilling blasters all over the deck. Kirk is furious as smuggling blasters is illegal. The naval captain orders his men to seize Kirk, but he manages to escape. After Kirk jets off in his boat, the naval captain and his crew remove masks, revealing them to be from planet Durand, the same planet that set a deal with Starlock to take over Arduba from Prince Jagoda. The Durand fleet fires on Kirk. The missile barrage is too much, and he and R2 are forced to eject in the boat's submarine lifeboat. They head immediately to the city dock. They plead with the dock manager, telling him of the fleet with illegal weapons out at sea, but his story falls on deaf ears. At that very moment, 3PO, advisor to the prince, was passing by. Seeing R2, 3PO jumps out to greet him. Now someone will listen to Kirk's story. The prince puts Kirk in command of his defense force, and they take 20 warships out to intercept the Durand invaders. Before they can attack, the Durand fleet retreats, not being prepared to take on the large fleet of Arduban warships. Once again, 3PO and R2 save the day, this time along with Kirk Windjammer. When the prince thanks Kirk, asking him to name his price, Kirk hesitates, but then asks the prince to remove the barrier that separates the Ocean Kingdom from the Desert Kingdom, the one that extracts taxes and prevents the planet from living in harmony with each other. The prince agrees to see what he can do. The next morning, the prince finds R2 and 3PO gone with only a goodbye letter requesting Kirk to be the next advisor to the prince, of which Kirk wholeheartedly agrees. His first advice to the prince is to never forget those two droids. Agreed. Roll credits.
So here's the thing I feel like we haven't said in a while. I felt like this one was a little Star Warsy.
It kind of was Star Warsy. I agree.
The whole, like, you know, the politics of these small worlds kinds of thing does feel very much like what, particularly like, you know, the prequels and things like that, what Star Wars sort of become. Like, there was always sort of a political component. But I felt like this, to me, felt like, I don't know, like kind of what they might do on a Star Wars show, like The Mandalorian or something like that. Not, yeah. I don't want to start you on the Acolyte again, but
don't get me on that.
But you know, one of those.
No, we're
things...
talking about a good story, so we're not
sorry. Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those things where it's like our characters go onto this world and kind of get into this political skirmish. That to me feels very much like what Star Wars sort of began to do after that. But I mean that in a good way.
Well, this felt to me like it was. It's short, but I felt like there was world building going on in it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's funny. I just finished the second movie of Rebel Moon, which is, I think it's pretty corny and this and that. But I was watching it and I was just like, man, this is like some serious world building here. Like, I had to sit there and kind of acknowledge and be like, he just made all this stuff up. He's not. Yeah. This is not based on anything. I mean, I heard that it meant to kind of be a Star Wars thing.
Right.
I sort of get that, but it's world building. And there's something, and I had to sit there and just acknowledge how creative that is. And this felt like it was world building. I was like, man, this could be a series of
Yeah.
comics based on just this planet.
I think that this is the only one where if you change the art style to a more like modern and serious, you could use this script in like a Star Wars short today.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
totally could. Yeah.
I think it's the most serious and the most legit of all of the maybe of all the droids and Ewok stuff that we've seen so far connected with these comic books.
Yeah.
You know, or the shows, including the shows.
I mean, your point of like the Mandalorian, right? Where like clearly there's a wall or a barrier that separates the two sides of this planet. What if the Mandalorian's job was to get somebody when he got to the planet, but where he had to drop them off was the other side of the wall. Yeah. And it creates this like now all of a sudden he's in the middle of this political whatever is going on this planet. And he drives him in, and now he's like sucked into it. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, I just wanted to make good on this bounty, but here I am having to do this." And I think that's good writing. I really, really like that. And I think the guy who wrote this very young, you could spin this story of a planet divided and the problems that happen between the two of them, and then a separate planet trying to take advantage of the fact that they're disagreeing with each other. And like, it's, I don't know, man. I just thought this was, I mean, I don't want to get into my Ichiwawa moment too soon, but like, this was really good. This was really like, I don't think it was executed the best because it was only very 3 short parts. You know, there's some holes in it, obviously, but it feels like this is the first thing that I'm like, they could do a movie on this. Yeah. Do a whole movie on just this concept, on this, almost this story. Yeah, they could.
Although I think you're describing a Star Trek movie more than a Star Wars movie at this point. But yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's just, you know, it's good, solid writing, and they use the separation of the two characters really well. I mean, you know, it's not going to last, but there was enough of them kind of on separate missions, so when it does eventually dovetail, it's satisfying and not just like annoying. You know what I mean? I had a good, pleasant experience. I noticed they called C-3PO Goldenrod, which I thought was kind of weird.
They did, yeah.
Because that's such a Han Solo thing, but you know.
I know, it was kind of cop-out. I did see that, too. I thought it was also a little bit weird that, like, you know, that we knew they were masterless from basically the last issue, but this one kind of started out with, like, I didn't catch the context, that they were like, oh, you didn't realize the difference between a power port and a data port.
Yeah, so you're kind of rolling into my Oak of Arc, so let's just lean into it. I liked that we got that little glimpse of like another story that we didn't see. You know, it was like, yep, they had another little misadventure, and here we are again. I thought that sort of smoothed it out, some of the clunkiness, but I thought the end, this is my Oak of Arc moment, where their C-3PO just sends him like a Dear John letter, and is like, okay, we're going to go be masterless again. I just felt like it wasn't even like they were trying to get out of the way so the two of them could work together more clearly or something like that. I think that's sort of in there, but it just felt like you reached the end of the story and it's like, okay, we have to do this contrivance that we do every issue. And it really stood out because the strength of everything else was up there so high. So I felt like that was a weak spot and has been a consistent problem. What about you? What's your Oak of Arc moment?
Mine was definitely, related to the story, that it really bothered me that Kirk was like, oh yeah, they're from Durand, you know, and it's just like, what? And I went back and looked and I'm like, no, they pulled their masks off like way after he was gone on the boat. So I thought like, that was a mistake. That was like a glaring mistake that like for him, you know, would have been interesting I guess it would have to have been more issues, but like, the fact that he doesn't even realize what's going on, right? And so that kind of bothered me. It also really bothered me that speaking on again of this whole like the droids, you know, trying to find a master and to kind of springboard off of yours. It does bother me, right? Like there was one episode where they were like, "Oh yeah, sorry, we are kind of dead weight," and then they left, right? That was in the droids TV show. Didn't they jettison themselves? Yeah. And then in the past, I just think of the past issues where it was just like, okay, the one where the alien son and his father kind of reunite, right? And they're kind of like, well, I guess there's really no room for us anymore. They don't need us to help them. They're gonna spend their time on their own. So you're kind of like, I guess so. But then, yeah, you're right. There's other times where they're like, oh, great, everything worked out. Well, we'll see you guys. And it's just like,
Yep.
I bought you, man. I bought you like yesterday. Like you can't just leave, you know? And so like, it's just so, to me, like, it's just so weird that like, you can't leave.
Yeah.
You belong to Kirk Windjammer.
They're officially, they stole themselves. They kidnapped themselves.
And the fact that like they just walk into a store and the store owner is like, oh, great, 2 new droids. All right, I'm going to sell you and make money off of you. Like, what? You didn't even buy them? They probably still belong to some. Obviously, they belong to like, what, 7 different masters?
So many people have a claim on them. Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, man. That to me was just like, oh.
Yeah.
What? Creepy. Like, literally, they just walked into Best Buy and sat on the shelf and somebody bought them. Like,
yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what was your Ichiwawa moment?
My Ichiwawa moment was the whole story in itself. I thought this.
I can't argue with you.
Such a great basis for like so many different things. You know, I'll be honest. I don't think they pulled it off, but I feel like this is the first time. Oh no, there's been other times where we're like, man, it was like they didn't really do a good job, and it was clunky, and this and that. There was still problems with the artwork, like C-3PO or R2-D2 is still yellow and red for some way, but his shadows are blue. So I was like, what the heck? But like this one, I was just like, yo, this is like, I really wanted like as thick as our omnibus. I could read a comic series, graphic novel about this concept of a planet split in 2. The people are stressed by the taxes and. You know, then there's an outlying planet that is trying to, you know, take over and, you know, they can prey on either side because they're weakened. No side is strong enough to take over the other, but like another planet can come in and kind of jackknife the whole situation. Like,
I don't know if you've heard of the game Star Trek Resurgence. It's out now. It's for like, you know, it's on PS5 and all that. And it's one of those ones where like, you play, but it's also like you have conversations and you make decisions. Like it's that kind of game. But the plot of this game is about like 2 factions on the same planet fighting over a resource, and the Federation kind of comes in to sort of like, what do we do with this mess? So what you're describing keeps reminding me of that game because again, it's very Star Trek-y, and our main character's name is Kirk. So I don't know if that was in anybody's head, but you know.
And it was funny when he was like Windjammer. I was like, Windjammer, what? And then he's just like, yes, my boat. And I was like, I wonder if he's talking about his starship. And nope. It was a boat. It was a boat. It was a legit boat.
Regular old boat.
I also thought it was really funny. So speaking of Star Trek, right? The advisors. Did you happen to notice that there was an Einstein advisor?
Oh.
There was a Spock advisor.
Really?
And then I don't know who the middle guy is. But I was like, yo, that's Spock. That's definitely Einstein. And then maybe you can see a cultural icon in the it's page 111
in
the omnibus. I was just like,
right.
Look at those guys.
Yeah.
Einstein, totally Einstein.
Yes.
I don't know who the middle guy is.
I don't either.
I mean, he has hair, but I was just like, is that like Bela Lugosi with hair? Well, I don't know. It's like a Bela Lugosi type character. By the way, he's holding his hands. He's very like, maybe like Igor-ish. And then Spock. That's like Spock with a beard.
Yeah, you're right. Mirror Spock. You're right. I didn't even notice that. But particularly it's funny too because the Einstein one has glasses. And that was such a thing in The Mandalorian, and then again in Andor when you had a character wearing glasses, because it was George Lucas was very like, no glasses in Star Wars. We're done with that. So that's kind of interesting to see a character with glasses early on. But good catch. I didn't even notice that. So maybe there was some Star Trek influence. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
My Ichiwawa is we've complained so often that most of what happened to C-3PO in both the cartoon and the comics was that he would do something stupid, like the time when he got caught twerking the whole time, like all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then sometimes some accident that he did would turn out to be something good. This time, he goes and gets that statue and just bludgeons the villain purposely to save his master. And I was like, wow, C-3PO purposely did something good and saved a character on purpose. It's like never happened before. So that was mine. I was very excited to see that.
That's a good one because that is something we've, he bends over and his butt presses a button which closes the door on like that.
Right.
It's like, come on,
No question here though. It was like very much intentional. So, how many yub nubs?
You know, this one's tough because I really like the story, but I think it. I don't know. I'm thinking like. I'm thinking 3.5, maybe 3.75, just
wow.
because.
Okay.
I mean, it's still, to me, that's not that high. I don't think it's a 4.
Okay.
I just think it wasn't enough. It
Really?
almost was too world buildy without really
Okay.
getting into it. And
I'm
we've done another
surprised.
story. There was one that I rated fairly low. I don't know, maybe I rated that one a 4, where I was just like, man, I really like this, but they struck out. Like they were sitting on a gold mine and they only
Yeah.
like extracted the pennies from the pile and were like, yes, the pennies, ha! And it's like you just left behind the gold. And that's what this one felt like, where I was just
Okay.
like, dude, like what are you doing? Like this was, I mean, at the time, it was just a story, and somebody was
Yeah.
probably like, good story, guys. I like
Yeah.
it. Like just gave him like a pat on the back. And I'm sitting here like 30, 40 years later going, this is it, man. This could have been an episode of or at least a show of somebody spin off this concept in Star Wars and stick with this and stay away from the Acolyte. Literally, this is a great. I mean, this is a great concept. It has everything. Look, it has everything that can be brought. It's actually the first thing I thought of was, wow, this is very relatable to right now with like building a wall and keeping people out. But the spin is it's one planet, you know? And so it's not like two countries. It's the same planet. They're supposed to be. And they're actually very, well, actually, they were different, right? It was a desert and the ocean.
Yeah.
And how both of them, he kind of went into like how both of them could live in harmony, which makes a lot of sense. And so, I mean, I don't know what the desert people could honestly give to the ocean people, but we know what the ocean people could give to the desert people. Let's be honest.
That's a little bit more clear. Well, then
I don't know.
maybe mine is going to shock you then, because based on, all the droids, because this is the final word. In my mind, this is like the final word on the droids
you're right.
cartoon, because we had our 13 episodes plus the Great Heap, and the Great Heap aired June 7th, 1986. So we're all the way in September of 1986. So the series has been over and done with.
Yeah.
Series has been over and done with, and what comes after this keeps the same numbering, but it's a different thing. So based on we've now seen all the droids, and I feel like if somebody was going to be like, tell me which droids thing from the cartoon or comics I should read, I would say this issue. And for that reason, I'm going to give it the full 5.
5, all right.
I'm going to give it the full 5.
I'll upgrade mine to a 4.
No, I don't want to peer pressure you.
I feel bad. I'm sure there's an episode, comic or episode that I absolutely hated that I gave it a 3.5.
That's probably true. We were pretty generous.
Maybe it's just me being angry that the writer didn't really do what I wanted. So that's selfish. But like, I honestly really liked this one. I thought, I mean, we kind of spitballed a few like ideas just from the concept of the planet itself. Yeah. Just such a good world building platform to have two planet kind of at odds with itself.
Yeah.
The commerce.
Yeah.
Right. That literally trying to make money is what is strangling the rest of the planet, which is an interesting concept. Yeah, 4. I should give it a 4. I feel like that's actually fair. You're not, all right. It's not because of you. It's because I do feel bad.
It's context.
I honestly,
greater context.
Greater context.
Right. Okay.
I did hype it up and then gave it a low number.
You did. Yeah, you were like, I would read a whole omnibus of this story.
2.5.
Give it 3. Okay. All right. Well, next time we are back on Endor with Ewoks number 11, The Incredible Shrinking Princess. And the cover looks fun. We'll
I'm
see.
guessing this one there's going to be some shrinking going on.
Some shrinkage.
If not, I'm going to be mad.
Okay.
That's such a lie.
Okay. Well, there's only one way to find out. Read along with us, and then we'll be back to talk in 2 weeks.
I'll see you then. This Endorian Life was brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network. Other shows on the network include 902.1 Here We Go, 90s Music Got Me Like, and previously on X-Men. Share your thoughts on this and upcoming episodes by following us on Facebook or X @Endorian Life, and please rate, subscribe, and share this show wherever you get your podcasts.